Donald Trump, master the art of the deal, supposedly, came up a cropper and is being humiliated by the master of the dark arts, Vladimir Putin. And it's all because Trump has got it into everyone's head and his own that he can end this war in 24 hours. That's 24 hours of winning the election.
Fix that within 24 hours. And if I win, before I get into the office, I will have that war settled. 100% sure. As president-elect, if I win this election, the first thing I'm going to do is call up Zelensky and call up President Putin, and I'm going to say, you gotta make a deal. This is crazy.
That's like saying he can solve world hunger by selling everyone a copy of The Art of the Deal. We're going to break this video down into 3 parts. We're going to look at Trump's plan, then we're going to look at how Putin's responded to this, which is hilarious, and then we're going to wrap it up by just bringing in a couple of real leaders and how they've dealt with similar situations, or they could have dealt with this. We're going to be looking at Otto von Bismarck and Teddy Roosevelt. And Teddy Roosevelt actually brokered a peace deal between Russia and Japan. So part 1 is Trump's plan. Trump has been relatively silent on this, however J.D. Vance, the vice president, hasn't been. They want an immediate ceasefire on all current front lines, freezing all military action where it stands, and to create a demilitarized zone. This would be giving up 1/5 of Ukrainian territory to Russia. And how you sell this to Zelensky and the Ukrainians, I have no idea. Because essentially what it's saying is Russia can go in and attack, take land, and then Trump will come in and offer a peace deal in favour of the aggressor, Russia. The second part of the plan is to create Ukrainian neutrality. That means delaying NATO membership for Ukraine by 20 years. This whole thing is straight from The Art of the Deal. Trump's approach is to pressure Ukraine into agreeing by threatening to cut US aid. It's the ultimate take it or leave it, which is straight from his book. However, Ukraine isn't buying it. Have a listen.
Today, I believe that President Trump really wants a quick solution. He wants it, but that doesn't mean it will happen.
Even Putin has called this the realm of fantasy. Because Trump has little to no more leverage on Putin to get on board with any deal, especially now as Putin is moving troops in the opposite direction. And this is why I'll be making comparisons with other world leaders, because from what I can see, all Trump has been doing is short-term gain. Whilst other world leaders in history like Otto von Bismarck, they've always looked at the long game. And I doubt Vladimir Putin will be thinking any differently. I even wonder if Trump really thinks that they've got some sort of friendship and that he can put some leverage through that. With someone like Putin, I doubt it very much. He's clearly a psychopath, sociopath, and willing to put and kill just about anyone who gets in his way. Why would that not stop him trying to defeat Trump? And here's where Putin has already got his revenge. Bear in mind, certain things can get put on state TV with Putin's approval. This would include what he's done to Melania. So it was shocking to see that within 24 hours of Trump becoming president, Putin's state TV had been busy showing nude photos of Melania while Russian hosts chuckled. I believe this is called Art of the Troll. Next, Trump, trying to act like he was the strongman, claimed that he'd called Vladimir Putin and told the Russian leader not to escalate in Ukraine. Putin's response? What call?
About a phone call that the US President-elect Donald Trump is alleged to have had with the Russian President Vladimir Putin last Thursday. That's at least according to the reporting by the Washington Post. Now, it said that in that conversation, Trump had urged Putin not to inflame the situation in Ukraine. The Kremlin has since said there was no such phone call and that the whole story is fiction.
That realm of fantasy again. And then, to really top it off, Putin, instead of de-escalating, does the exact opposite and escalates by rushing troops to Kursk, an area taken by Ukraine that's based in Russia. Putin is now trying to do a massive push to grab that land back before any negotiations start. And if that wasn't enough, here's where it gets juicy. Russian presidential aide Nikolai Patrushev has gone on record saying that Trump, in order to win, had to rely on certain forces and now has obligations to fulfill for Russia. In other words, he owes them a favour, or, worse still, they own him. And yet, where are the headlines? If a foreign power outright states that the US president-elect is beholden to them, that's news, right? But not a peep from most media outlets. So let's just recap on this for a second. You've got Russia openly saying that Trump relied on them to win. And if that isn't a backfire on Trump's image as a self-made deal maker, I don't know what is. He's gone from I alone can fix it to I owe them for fixing it for me. The Art of the Deal doesn't mention this, by the way. Then he insults his wife, then he also insults his intelligence and makes him look like he's gone senile because the Kremlin is saying no phone calls taking place. What we're seeing here from Putin is almost on a scale of Otto von Bismarck or Machiavelli. He's playing Trump like a fiddle. And finally, for part 3, how real leaders would have handled Putin and why Trump's out of his league. The key difference between Trump's approach and those of real historical leaders is a concept Trump seems to miss entirely: long-term strategy. Great leaders know that diplomacy isn't about quick wins or flashy promises, it's about building influence, applying pressure, and sometimes playing the long game. Trump's 24-hour solution is like trying to fix a leaky roof with a single bandage. It's just not going to hold up. Take Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor who unified Germany. Bismarck didn't march in with bold statements and empty threats, he played a subtle game of alliances and diplomacy over years. For instance, he strategically isolated France by forging alliances with Austria-Hungary and Russia through the League of the Three Emperors. His goal wasn't to provoke enemies but to maintain a balance of power, keeping potential rivals close so they couldn't turn against him. With that in mind, if Bismarck were dealing with Putin, he'd likely find ways to subtly exert influence over Russia's allies rather than jumping in with vague promises of instant peace. His approach would have been a multi-step plan to gradually shift the balance of power without a single loud proclamation. Trump's bold but hollow promises wouldn't make it past Bismarck's first draft. Then there's Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, who knew when to talk softly and when to carry a big stick. When he mediated the end of the Russo-Japanese War in 1905, he didn't make grand declarations or overpromise. Instead, he used America's influence to bring both sides to the table, balancing their demands to prevent a future conflict. His approach was calculated. He knew Russia needed to maintain stability in Asia, and he leveraged that to push for peace. Roosevelt's work won him a Nobel Peace Prize, not for making loud claims, but for applying strategic pressure. And again, contrasting with Trump's ideas of threatening Ukraine with the withdrawal of aid unless they agreed to his terms is more like carrying a broken stick. Roosevelt would have recognized that a credible threat requires both follow-through and subtlety. So why does long-term thinking matter with Putin? Well, Putin's strategy isn't based on short-term victories, it's about securing Russia's strategic needs, like access to warm water ports and maintaining influence over former Soviet states. This area of Crimea, which we've been looking at and talking about in the last 20 years because of conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, dates back as a disputed territory for hundreds of years. And it's all because Russia has a need for warm water ports. And for leaders like Bismarck and Roosevelt, they would have recognized this, and they would have built a plan that either works around them, or they would have used it as leverage. Whilst Trump's approach, by contrast, is just about quick fixes and immediate glory for himself. He doesn't seem to understand that diplomacy with someone like Putin isn't just about showing strength, it's about knowing where to apply pressure, when to ease it up, and most importantly, when to be patient. Trump's 24-hour claim and transactional mindset might work in real estate, but in geopolitics, it's a recipe for getting played, which is exactly what Putin's done to him. So what have we learned? Putin's got Trump's deal making all figured out. Trump's plan is like the art of the deal on autopilot, and history shows us that real leaders use strategy and not slogans. Do you think the art of the deal stands up in the real world? Or is this a lesson in how not to negotiate with dictators? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon YouTube subscribers, you members. You keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to help out, there are links in the description. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Bye for now.